Hello everyone. So today I was able to get some parts for my new editing computer build. So I think we should do an unboxing on the parts and then of course put it all together. I'm probably going to post the unboxing video first and then the assembly video separately because I want to also do some tests on it and see how much more powerful it is than my current system. So I have all of the parts here, so let's take a look at what I got today. First up we have the MSI X470 Gaming Plus motherboard. As you can see, I am going to be going with an AMD based system. So we also have the AMD Ryzen 2700X CPU. This is the 8-core Ryzen chip. We also have some low-profile memory from Corsair. This memory is supposed to be Ryzen capable and ready. It's possible that this memory also might be Samsung B-die memory, but we won't know for sure until we actually get it installed and boot up the system and take a look. And finally here we have the NVMe SSD drive. This is one of the Intel 760p series SSDs. This one is an NVMe of 256 gigabyte capacity. So the first thing we have here is the motherboard, so let's take a look and see what comes with it here. Motherboard itself in the anti-static bag. The driver disc. Looks like it also comes with a right angle SATA cable and a straight SATA cable. This is the screw for the M.2 slot for the NVMe drive, so this is important to make sure you don't lose it. It actually comes with two of them because there's two NVMe slots. Registration card. Sheet of labels here. So you can use these for designating the cables to your power supply or the cables to your hard drives, what have you. Generic quick installation guide with the AMD CPUs and all of that stuff. Got our MSI case badge that we will not be using because I don't want to put anything on my fancy fractal design case. And we have the back plate here. The back plate is all black except for some red accents, so that's interesting. Looks like the speaker jack is set in red so that you know which one it is. And then of course we have the manual, the least interesting part. Okay, and here we have the motherboard. Looks like a pretty standard board here. There's not a ton of stuff. It does have some red accents on here. So this motherboard of course has the same VRM as the more expensive Gaming Pro motherboard, but this motherboard has much better VRM heatsinks. The heatsinks actually have these grooves going through them, which will make a fairly big difference, especially since this is going to be running the 8-core CPU. And on the bottom here are the RGB LEDs. I believe that's the only spot that has them on this particular motherboard, but I guess we'll find out. Board looks pretty nice. I don't see anything wrong with it. The audio has a separation track around it, which is pretty much standard on all motherboards these days. Got our 6 SATA ports, our 2 NVMe ports. I believe we want to use the first port. We'll have to check the manual. But if you use the second port, it's not going to get the full bandwidth of the NVMe. Whereas this one, it has the dedicated 4x lanes. And that's the full contents of the motherboard box there. Got the SSD here. Let's see how it looks inside. Seems like a quite excessively large box for what it is. Got the little information and warranty booklet. And we have the drive itself. So nicely, the drive here actually has a black label on it, so it's not going to stick out too much on the motherboard. Should be okay. Got the memory here. So it's just the 2 sticks of Corsair memory here. It is 3200 megahertz, so hopefully it'll be able to run at that speed without any issues, and hopefully we'll be able to tweak the timings a little bit and tighten them up. We'll see, I guess. And finally we have our AMD CPU. So of course the CPU comes with a cooler. We're going to be using the stock cooler for now. I'll probably get a better cooler at some point in the future, but it's what I'll have to make do with for now. Our CPU. There it is. In all of its glory. Don't see any bent pins or anything. Just gonna keep that in its box until we're ready to use it. And of course the cooler has its cables. This is the cable for the RGB lighting. And this is a USB cable header. And of course it's got the fan header and the pre-applied thermal compound. Now I will probably end up removing this thermal compound and replacing it with some Noctua stuff. Not because the Noctua stuff will perform a ton better, but mostly because this thermal compound, once it heats up and goes through a few cycles, will start to dry out. It's just the type of thermal compound that they use on the stock heat spreaders. It's much more stable over long periods of time. Unfortunately, it's also stickier. So when it dries out, it can actually end up sticking to the CPU to the point where when you take off this cooler, it pops the whole CPU out of the socket. And that can of course bend pins, and that's not a good thing. So we're going to likely replace this thermal compound, since I have a whole tube of the Noctua stuff from the Noctua cooler replacement. And it looks like this one's super easy to mount. It's going to be using the default brackets. We don't have to take them off or anything. And of course it has the RGB fan on the cooler here. So that's pretty much going to be it for this particular video. This one was just going to be the unboxing of those products. So I hope you enjoyed this little peek at the components that are going into my system. For the video card, I'm just going to use my 7970 that I have from my other system. For a secondary hard drive, I have a 1 terabyte drive here, and then I might get a 4 terabyte one in the future at some point. And of course the case and the power supply you saw in the previous Mail Goodies video if you watched that. It is the Fractal Design Meshify C Lite Edition and the Seasonic 650 watt prime gold craziness power supply of awesomeness. I'm going to be using this video actually as a rendering test for the new system to compare with the old system. So this is kind of just a sneak peek at the parts that I'm going to put together. I won't be waiting as long to post the build video as I normally do. I would normally wait till next Thursday in order to post it, but I will not be doing that this time. I will be posting it once I am ready, once everything has been sorted out. Keep tuned for the build video, which should be a lot more interesting than this one was. So of course, if you liked the video, then be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, then consider subscribing to the channel. Every subscriber helps a ton. Leave any questions or comments in the section below, or you can email them to me or tweet them to me. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.